Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our live show discussing Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, the sixth holy Imam. Assalamu alaikum, Sayed Ammar. Sayyidina, just prior to the break, you were elaborating on the different students, the political plight, and also, the questioning about why different forms of, for example, who should be followed, as it were,
yes.
just in terms of, for example, the Hanafi fiqh, the Hanbali fiqh. So, if I may ask, what is the significance of Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam's half-brother or step-brother, if I may say it more accurately,
yes.
Zayd? What political stance did he have? What was his pivotal gain at that time? What was he doing? Was he working in parallel with Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam? Were they close? Was there love and affection between? Because there's very little spoken about this personality as well.
Well, Zayd, no doubt, is revered,
Right.
within the school of Ahl al-Bayt. You have many wonderful traditions about his character.
And there's a lineage from him as well.
Yes. Until today, you find many who will refer to themselves as Zaydi, Sayyids, and so on. There is no doubt about the meritorious nature of this man who stood up against the Umayyad Caliph of his time.
Right.
The Umayyad Caliph, the general of the Umayyad Caliph, so not just Hisham.
And was this simultaneously done or administered, as it were, while Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam was providing his teachings?
No, this is earlier.
Yeah,
this is earlier. You're looking at him speaking out, and at the same time speaking out against Yusuf al-Thaqafi, father of Hajjaj, the known bloodthirsty general of the Umayyad. Yeah. So Zayd firstly seems to have visited the Umayyad Caliph to tell him that, listen, this abuse towards the family of the Prophet and this harsh treatment of them has to be stopped. And then the Umayyad Caliph of the time, Hisham, has these poets in his court, and amongst them is a Christian poet by the name of Al-Akhtal. And he actually curses the Prophet and his family in front of Zayd. And Zayd makes it clear that I'm now going to rise against these Umayyads. And hence in Zaydi theology, while they may not necessarily see Zayd as greater than Imam al-Baqir, it doesn't mean if you're the less greater, they have the difference between al-Afdal wal-Mafdul.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean if you're less greater that you can't be the leader of the school, as long as if you're from the, let's say, Hashemid line, but you're the one who stood up against the Khalifa of the time, you performed Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, then they took him in later theological circles as being the Imam after Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. And, he rises against them. Imam al-Baqir, there is an interesting discussion which is narrated where Imam al-Baqir tells him that, and this seems to be the line of Imam Al-Sadiq as well, that, those who promise to be alongside you, you're going to find that they may do a kufa on you, in the sense of they may find pressure at that moment when you need their support the most. There's going to be severe pressure against them. And he goes out with these soldiers and realizes, as he says in his famous line, لَعَلَّهُمْ فَعَلُوهَا حُسَيْنِيَّةً, it looks like they've done a Hussein on me. And he fights valiantly until eventually, they kill him the worst of deaths, the worst of killings. So you've got this wonderful personality, maybe who felt that, I need to stand up.
Right.
Some will say, well, did Imam al-Baqir give him public, explicit approval? It doesn't seem like the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt ever went towards public, explicit approval of certain things because of political situations.
Okay. We have a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Yes, brother, do you, your name and your question, please?
Yeah, I'm Sayed Mohsen from Qom.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I'm Sayed Mohsen from Qom.
Sayed Mohsin from Qom.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Yes, your brother, your question, please.
Yeah, my question is, why Abu Hanifa separated his way from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, despite he has said that all of my knowledge is from 2 years studying in Imam Sadiq's school.
Okay.
Did you get?
Yes, I got the question.
Okay.
It's a question which I think we discussed a bit earlier. So why does Abu Hanifa not follow Imam al-Sadiq? And as I said, firstly, who necessarily told you we know what Abu Hanifa's final theological worldview was? You know, he's imprisoned because of his support for the Zaydi movement. Does that mean that theologically he's Zaydi? Okay. Theologically, is he Ahlul Sunnah? What is Ahlul Sunnah at that time? Is it Murji'ah? Thirdly, just because you study under someone doesn't necessarily mean you're going to subscribe to their teachings. I don't know what the trappings of power and fame do to a person. You know, you may find many a great scholar who had a student who completely deviates from his own, path. I can name you scholars who've had students in the seminaries who became atheists. Just because you study under someone, sometimes the trappings of fame may overtake you. Further than that, who told you he formulated his own school? Okay. His school wasn't formulated by him. As I mentioned earlier before the break, there are thousands of schools in Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah when it comes to fiqh. Yes? Sufyan al-Thawri had his school, and others had their schools. And eventually they decided they're going to, limit them to these four. Now, who told you to limit them to the four? Which narration tells you that there should only be four? Did the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, ever say there will be four fuqaha after me, all of you have to subscribe to? In other words, people are making it seem like Abu Hanifa, A, had a clear theological school, B, formulated his own legal school. Right. And really, on the contrary, I don't find any of these in the traditions that you could say Abu Hanifa at that time theologically was this, and he formulated his own legal school. Yeah. Yes, he has a school that years after him is called the Hanafi school. Not in his own lifetime. No. Not in the generation after him. Students of students of students who then, in relation to the political powers that be, decide that, these are the four main schools. And then later on you have the works of students from those particular schools. So, and Imam al-Sadiq seemingly has discussions with Abu Hanifa. Imam al-Sadiq has students, and we earlier mentioned, and I think it's something which can be touched upon now even. Many times we've mentioned Abu Hanifa and we mention Malik as the students of Imam al-Sadiq. Ask many of the Shia, name me the Shi'i students of Imam al-Sadiq. They won't know, and that is very sad. Sometimes I do get wary that we quote a lot of hadiths from our brothers in other schools and forget our own hadith books. So sometimes if you were to ask a Shia, name me your main books of hadith, I guarantee you won't hear them saying anything like Al-Kafi or anything like, Basa'ir al-Darajat or Al-Mahasin or Man La Yahdarahu al-Faqih. And likewise, when it comes to companions of Imams, we know the schools or the students of other schools, but you ask them about the students of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And I've seen students of Imam al-Sadiq, really I could say, put Abu Hanifa in his place when he thought that his knowledge was to be revered as the same as Imam al-Sadiq. And amongst them, Mu'min al-Ta'af.
So do you think there's a degree of arrogance as well?
I don't want to, attribute, any...
false.
Yeah, I don't want to say that an Imam who is revered by other Muslims may have necessarily had that type of inclination. All I could say is a general point, and that is when Imam al-Sadiq is alive, you have no opinion.
Right, okay. Yeah. Amongst his works, there's a number of famous works, as it were, but what sort of hurdles did the Sixth Holy Imam face at that time? Was it directly from the Caliphate, as it were, Bani Umayyads, and also because he lived in the time of Umayyads and Abbasids?
Yeah.
So what sort of
I think the Umayyad
problems was he facing?
Yeah, I think the Umayyad Khalifas were facing their own internal problems.
Right.
And they were facing their own internal clashes. And they were facing external issues with the Abbasids. So while they're busy with that, I think the Abbasid Khalifas give him unbelievable pressure. Right. Mansur al-Dawaniqi made it his point that he's going to harass Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. The Imam al-Sadiq goes through a number of house arrests in his lifetime, which we normally only attribute with Imam al-Kadhim or Imam al-Hadi, Imam Askari. Yeah. But Imam al-Sadiq as well went through immense pressure in his lifetime. Immense pressure indeed when it came to the Abbasid Khulafa. Yes, he had this period where he's able to elaborate and expound on the teachings of the Ahl al-Bayt, but the likes of Mansur al-Dawaniqi without a doubt put enough pressure on him. And I would say, that is not the only pressure Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam faces.
Okay.
I'd say, if you look at the sectarian milieu at the time in Kufa, there is unbelievable pressure that he faces from his own followers.
Loyalty, do you think?
Loyalty stroke those who raise him too high and those who don't acknowledge him as his rightful status. We seem to have this problem in Islamic history. You either exaggerate someone's position, elevate them too high, or you degrade to a level where you put them alongside mere mortals. You know, if you look at the time, you've got the Khattabiyya movement, you know, where some are calling Imam Al-Sadiq a prophet, some are calling him God. You know, and you've got other movements emerging at the time, which are known later by heresiographers, for example, and others as being, you know, Nusayri in their inclination, talking of, you know, a divine attribution to Imam Al-Sadiq.
Okay. So now we'll come back to that point again. I think there's a caller online. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, your name and question, please.
My name is Asif. First, I wanted to, you know, say to Ammar Nakshawani that, you know, well done for doing a brilliant job. You know, you inspire everyone in Coventry.
Thank you.
Also, sorry, my question was, my sister was asking that are men allowed to wear gold, and if not, then whereabouts is that written? Or
sure.
If you can give a bit of enlightening on that. Thank you, brother.
Okay.
We'll try and answer this quickly so we can
sure.
go back on the subject. According to Ayatollah Sistani, all forms of gold are not allowed to be worn by men. That includes gold plating, white gold. Yes, because sometimes a person imagines I'm wearing a watch. As long as it's plated gold and the gold isn't touching me, then it's allowed. No, Ayatollah Sistani doesn't allow white gold or the gold plating or, you know, your classic gold jewelry to be worn within the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
Okay,
and if you want the hadiths, you can go to works like Wasa'il al-Shia, for example, to find many of the traditions from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, which discuss the fact that you can't be wearing something which is gold, and they normally put silk alongside gold in terms of what can't be worn. Now, the discussion on silk, we may have another time as to what is real silk, what is part silk, what's been manufactured and changed. But in terms of gold, if you're of the followers of Ayatollah Sistani,
it's haram.
It's haram. Yes.
It's haram for men. Okay, fine. So returning to the point.
Going back to, we were talking about the students. And we were talking about what happened was that all of a sudden they started saying that Imam Al-Sadiq is God. So now you've got your problem with these, and amongst the interesting people who is known to possibly have had that inclination or be part of that grouping is Mufaddal.
Yes, I was just going to come. Do you think it's because of the mystical aspects and the secrets that he unfolded, as it were, in terms of mysticism, Dhahiri, as it were, forms of, not magic, but you know, miracles? Because he's associated with a lot of physical miracles that, for example, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is associated with.
Yes. Well, he is a prominent Kufan of Yemeni origin. Of course, he's a Ja'fi, and the Ja'fis are originally Madhajis in Kufan society. He has some traditions where you see how close he is to the Imams. Like, I must admit, as in barring when you're later reading people like Ibn al-Ghada'iri in their Rijal works, others aren't too damning of Mufaddal, you know. And I find that very interesting, that you can't really find many damning traditions against him. He might be, you know, Ibn al-Ghadari may not be favorable of him, but then Ibn al-Ghadari is not necessarily favorable of many people, hence Kitab al-Du'afa. But when you're looking at Mufaddal, what you're finding is that he's of those who goes to Imam al-Sadiq's door with those who ask whether Imam al-Sadiq is divine. Now, it's very interesting. Is he a ghali? Is he in ghulu? Is his understanding of Imam al-Sadiq being the face of Allah seen as ghulu? Remember, there's also a group called the Mufaddaliyya, a sect called the Mufaddaliyya. So you don't just have the sect al-Khattabiyya, you have the Mufaddaliyya as well. Because Mufaddal is a student of Imam al-Sadiq and Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Yes, and we have a hadith where Imam al-Kadhim mourns the death of Mufaddal, which is very interesting. Mufaddal was, because Ahlul Bayt, one thing they despise is someone who attributes Godhead to them. That's very clear. Go later on to Imam al-Askari and the way he talks about Ibn Hasaka and does la'na on him. So when you mourn Mufaddal's death, you're possibly giving an indication that Mufaddal wasn't of those who believed that Imam al-Sadiq was a prophet or that Imam al-Sadiq was God, but rather were those who recognized the true meaning of imamah. Mu'izzi, in the Divine Guide, has a very interesting discussion about taqiyya. And whether taqiyya, is it concealing in the life or death, or is it that some of the deeper knowledge of the Imams wasn't to be revealed to everyone? Secrets. And that's why when you come to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam al-Sadiq is the inheritor, not just of the armor and the weapons of the Imams, but he is the inheritor of the numerical sciences, which the Imams know about, the alphabetical sciences, the general occult science. And so all of a sudden now you may have a Mu'min al-Taq, Mufaddal, the Hishamain, you have Muhammad bin Muslim, your Yunus bin Abdul Rahman, Mu'alla bin Khunaysis, of this world, who may be privy to Imam al-Sadiq and Imam al-Kadhim's deeper secrets.
Right.
And that might be a problem why Mufaddal is seen as being troublesome in terms of his beliefs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think that there are sciences or some of his works that have been lost?
Oh, for sure,
Really?
for sure. Like Imam al-Sadiq, at the moment we have of the usul al-400, the 400 usul of Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, we only have a handful, if not a bit more, of these usul of Imam al-Sadiq. These were from 400 students of the Imam, disciples of the Imam, who had taken notes in the classes of the Imam.
Right.
And it's sad that we only have so few left.
And how was that lost? I mean, obviously it's still and was vested in the hearts of the subsequent Imams.
Yes.
Naturally, as being Masoom. But
Yes.
how was it lost?
Yes.
Through the intermediaries, i.e. the non-Masoomin.
You know what?
Corruption, burning.
Burning is a major issue. The libraries of the likes of Sheikh al-Tusi, and the way they burnt the libraries of Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. Ink is like, you could describe it as red on the floor. These definitely played a major role in losing what we had.
Okay, we have a caller in line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Your name, please, and your question?
My name is Hussein. I'm calling from London.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have two questions. May I ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The first one, how many scholars have studied with Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam? And the other question is, how came that after that Islam divided in 72 sects, in 72 groups? How came that?
Sure. In terms of the student, he said how many scholars, it's easy to attribute scholarship to anyone. But if we were to say that students, we would say, definitely in the 3,000s were the students of the Imam. As a round figure, people normally say 4,000.
A number of them were non-Muslim, weren't they?
Yes. There are non-Muslims who would come to travel to learn from the Ahl al-Bayt without a doubt.
Yeah.
There are some who'd come to study, biological science from him, chemistry from him, physics from him, geometry from him, astronomy from him, botany from him. This is the holistic, unbelievable knowledge of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. But if the brother's talking about the main scholars, then of course the likes of Abu Hanifah and Malik and for example, the Sufyan al-Thawris of this world and so on, they would have been attending classes and had interesting discussions with Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. In terms of the hadith about, well, then how comes there's 72? If Imam al-Sadiq was a teacher, well, at the end of the day, everyone decides to have their own worldview. Right. Some believe that Imam al-Sadiq is simply an alim, not designated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say he's alim of the ulama. Yeah. Sadly, you are amazed to see that a man like Muhammad bin Ismail al-Bukhari, author of the famous Sahih, does not quote one tradition from Ja'far al-Sadiq. Amazing. Possibly being an Abbasid scribe, Bukhari is of course living shortly after Imam al-Sadiq, but still in the Abbasid era, may have an effect on why he doesn't quote from Imam al-Sadiq. But it's unbelievable how you've got this man who's taught so many people, and yet at the end you've got so little mention of the traditions of him because of, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to decide why. So why 73 sects and why we're divided into that many sects? Well, at the end of the day, it depends what your motive is in talking about a figure. Is it payment? You know, what are you being paid by the caliphs of the time? What's the worldview of the caliphs of the time? Has it affected? The Abbasids did not like Ahmed bin Hanbal.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We have another caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, your name please and your question.
My name is Mohammed Awais.
Okay.
And first off, I just want to say it's a pleasure speaking with you, Sayyid.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And my question is, as a follower of Ahlul Bayt, how would we prove the imamate of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, for example, to a non-Shia, considering they always hear the names of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali, but not many hear of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. So how do I prove to a Sunni who's never heard of him before that he's actually an Imam?
Good point.
Sure. Well, where do you want me to begin?
Yeah.
You know, I can go on for hours about this, and I would certainly refer you to my 2 lectures online, which are available on YouTube. One of them is Y12.
White wealth.
Y12.
Right.
And the second one is Imam of the time.
Okay.
They both elaborate on a very interesting question, which is that many non-Shia say your belief in the 12 Imams wasn't an early belief. Your belief in the 12 Imams came post-occultation, because your books Al-Kafi and Man La Yahdarahu Al-Faqih, Wasa'il Al-Shia Bihar, and are all post-occultation. So what you did is you looked in hindsight and you thought, let's plug some gaps. And you put these 12 Imams. And they say amongst their biggest proofs is, why would it be so unclear to a Zaydi or an Ismaili, if there was 12 Imams, why is it that they go towards those paths? If it was so clear that these are the 12 Imams and their names are there. Firstly, when you come to understanding the subject of Imama, the first point that has to be mentioned, no doubt, is that did prophets previous to the Holy Prophet have 12 successors? We see in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks of the nuqaba, the naqibs of Nabi Musa alayhi salam being 12. And we know Nabi Isa, how many were his disciples?
Right.
12. And there's no coincidence that in Bukhari and Muslim says there will be 12 Khalifs after me, there will be 12 Amirs after me, there will be 12 Qayyims after me, there will be 12 Naqibs after me.
Right.
And so you've got this idea of the 12 Imams already. And now the question is, well, once I've understood there are 12, yes? Then from there comes the understanding, has Allah purified a segment of those surrounding the Holy Prophet? We know Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein were purified in Ayat al-Tathir.
Yeah.
We know that Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari, the Prophet tells him, you will meet Al-Baqir, send my salams to him. That's number 5. And then from there we have clearly the Imams themselves will announce who their successor is, one after the other. And you have the clear designation from Allah of each Imam. Right. And the books are there from an early period, from that period in fact, explaining Imam after Imam. And amongst them is those Usul Arba'mi'ah of Imam Sadiq.
So now we'll come back to that point if we need to. There's 2 or 3 callers on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalam. Yes, your name please and your question.
My brother, my question is, I want to just discuss on there's a person by the Muslim Khurasani.
Yes.
Yeah, can you put tell us Shia and or in the times of Imam Ja'far and what was his role during Imam's time?
Sure. Abu Muslim al-Khurasani, interesting about Abu Muslim al-Khurasani being one of the generals of Bani Abbas. Someone who thinks that he might get a position in government and later on realizes these guys aren't giving you anything. And the Barmaki family certainly made sure that they were well looked after. But Abu Muslim Khurasani, you know, when you talk about one of the signs of the 12th Imam being the Khurasani, it's interesting that Amini questions this idea of the Khurasani by saying that the black banners from Khurasan was an Abbasid concoction to refer to the mission of Abu Muslim al-Khurasani. That's one of our own ulama, you know, Al-Amini. He says that Abu Muslim al-Khurasani uses this sign by saying that, you know what, there will be black banners. When you see those black banners, know that the Messiah is near.
Yeah.
And so Amini says, when today you have a lot of people saying, well, we have black banners from Khurasan, he's like, well, no, that was Abu Muslim al-Khurasani. He came with black banners on behalf of Bani Abbas. As I said, this person in the Shia stance, firm enemy of Al-Muhammad, no doubt. Enemy of Ahl al-Bayt, conspirator to ensure that authority did not reach Ahl al-Bayt, alayhim as-salam, and really thought he's going to have a position in government. And subhanAllah, if you look at what happened to Abu Muslim at the end, you find he wasn't given anything really, and his family, you know, was not given any positions as well.
Okay, so now we're going to be going to a short break in a few minutes, but I think we have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. How are you?
Yes, very well. Thanks for holding so long. So your name and your question, please.
Not worries. I've only been holding for a couple of seconds. I'm calling from London.
Yeah.
And my question is regarding, can a Sayyid please explain the terms Wajhullah, Lisanullah, Jambullah, and belief in these terms, does this result in gulu? Or are these metaphorical terms describing the relationship and positions of the Imam with Allah? Because we hear these terms sometimes recited on the pulpits, but just want to get Sayyid's views on this. Inshallah.
Okay, so Wajhullah, Lisanullah.
Yeah, there is no ghulu in saying that, for example, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is the face of Allah on earth, or Imam Al-Sadiq is the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. That we don't mean literally.
No.
We mean the direction to reach Allah, which one of the meanings of wajh is tawajjuh, correct?
Right.
One of the directions of one of the ways to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through the direction of the teachings of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Purely speaking, wasila.
Yeah, we're talking, you know, there is metaphorical descriptions.
Yeah.
Yad Allah means what? Means that the hand of Allah on earth, meaning the person who's making sure the mission of Allah is looked after, is Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And further than that, Imams say we are the names of Allah. Meaning what? Meaning, for example, one of the names of Allah is Jawad. And ninth Imam is Al-Jawad.
Generous.
The perfection of beneficence, let's say, and generosity is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there is no harm Allah sharing part of this to one of His creation.
Of course.
Yes? Like Allah is Khaliq, is it shirk that I say a creation can be Khaliq? Well, Nabi Isa alayhi salam is someone who created birds from clay. Allah is the Khaliq who is independent of all. But He can give some of this attribute towards Nabi Isa alayhi salam.
Yeah. By the permission.
With the permission. Yeah. And so when we come to say that the Imams are the attributes of Allah on earth, the names of Allah, there's not extremism.
No.
And on the contrary, what all we're saying is, if you want to see the manifestation of justice on earth, look at Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Of course.
If you want to see the manifestation of humility on earth, look at, for example, Imam Zayd ibn Ali. And if you want to look at the manifestation of generosity, Imam Al-Jawad. Yeah. That's no problem at all.
Okay. Yep. I think we're going to be going into a short break. But
inshallah, when we come back, we'll discuss you know, the companions of the Imam.
Very briefly, can you touch upon the point? I think some narrations state that Imam Jafar Sadiq al-Islam was also known or referred to as Ya Aba Abdullah. Why is that the case? And maybe we can follow on this or continue that point after the break. But
sure.
Perhaps you might be able to allude to
that. Amongst his children, of course, her oldest child was not Musa ibn Jafar.
No.
You know, I mean, a lot of people assume Imam Musa al-Kadhim was the oldest son of Imam Sadiq, but he wasn't the oldest son of the Imam. You have Ismail, you have Abdullah.
Right.
Yes, so Abdullah being the eldest, some would refer to him as Aba Abdullah. Yes.
Right.
Of course, the Imams are fathers of the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, correct? They are the fathers of this ummah.
Yeah.
But he had a son by the name of Abdullah al-Aftah. Yes.
Okay. Viewers, inshallah, please do join us again. We're going to be going for a short break. The telephone number to call for questions is 0203 515 1234. Inshallah, see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.